Hey guys, what's up? So today I'm looking at the ENGL Fireball 25 KT77 edition. So stay tuned. Alright guys, so today I'm looking at this ENGL Fireball 25. It's the one and only ENGL amp I own. The Fireball 25 has been out for quite a while. The regular 6L6 version is ubiquitous. You can find it on most, retailers. And for what it's worth, in the price range and in the size factor here, the form factor, it's probably one of the best amps that you can invest in. Now, this version came out this last year, and it has a KT77 power amp section. Now, the KT77 tube architecture is much more similar to that of an EL34 than a 6L6. And so with that, you get this German powerhouse of an amp built around what is more of a British-style power circuit. The preamp still has the 12 AX7s or the ECC83 preamp tubes, so you're still getting most of the same voicing that you would get out of the regular Fireball 25. Now, there's a bunch of videos where people compare the two different versions, and overall, the only thing that could really be said about the KT77 definitively is that it seems a little bit louder, and that maybe the clean channel has a little bit more mid-range, even without the mid-boost. And we'll get into what the mid-boost is here in a minute. So anyway, the setup for today is I'm running this Gibson Les Paul Special from the late 90s that has been, to hell and back, just beat up. It's kind of my beater guitar. I do a lot of modifications with it. Currently, I have the EMG Revelation passive set in the actual guitar, and these are running Alnico 2 magnets. I did a review of those pickups, and I'll link it somewhere here. Beyond that, we're going straight into the amp through this pedal board here that's full of a bunch of different boost pedals. I'm not going to go through every single boost pedal. I just have it all set up here. I'll probably go with the TS9 and the Licklarum Audio King and Yellow, maybe the DS1. I don't know. I kind of just make it up as I go when it comes to that stuff. Beyond that, the more interesting thing about this demo today is I really want to capture the essence of this amp in multiple ways. And in order to really do that, what I have to do is kind of come up with a couple different mic and speaker configurations to kind of demonstrate what this does. Now, what I have going on today is I have a 212 behind me loaded with an Eminence DV77 and a Celestion Redback. And I have both of those mic'd up with the SM57. And then later on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over to my Mesa 412 cab, which I just found out is filled with 2001 vintage 30s. And I have a Lewitt Audio 441 condenser mic pointed at the top left speaker on that one. And we're going to hear what it sounds like through that. So first up, let's just go through the front panel here. From left to right, we have our clean gain, our lead gain, bass, middle, treble, and then a lead volume. And then in the middle here, we have the mid boost, and then the clean lead switch button that goes from the clean channel to the lead channel, and then a master and a presence. Very simple, very straightforward. Very much like its bigger brother, the Fireball 100. It's not a very loaded bells and whistles kind of amp, but it does have a couple interesting and special things that it does that some amps in this class don't have. So let's go ahead and flip around to the back panel here. And what you see is you have your two foot switch controls where you can switch, the mid boost or effects loop on. You have the clean and lead master volume boost foot switch. So you can run two different types of foot switch. If you have your effects loop, it's a series effects loop, pretty standard. You have the noise gate, you have a line out, which is at 0 decibels. And then you have your speaker outputs. Now, if you look up top, you have something called a power soak, and it goes from full power to half power to low power. And then at the bottom, you have what's called speaker off. Now, this allows you basically to run with no load from the amp and use your speaker outputs as your preamp outs. So that's kind of cool. So first up, I'm going to play just a standard clean tone on this thing. There's nothing really crazy about the clean channel on here. There's no added crunch or boost or anything like you'd get on like a 5150. There is no clean dedicated volume for the channel. You're basically using the clean gain and the master volume as your main controls. The clean gain is a very clean gain. Like you turn it up, up, up. It takes a minute for it to actually reach a point of breakup. It's a very clean channel. And I think that's why you don't really have a dedicated volume for that channel, because you're not really going to be driving the clean channel too hard on this. So right now I just have everything kind of up in the middle, bass, middle, treble, middle. The gain and the volume, master volume, are kind of where I need it to be for recording purposes. And then the presence is up a little bit just to give a little bit of clarity. And here is my bridge pickup on the clean channel. So yeah, very nice clean channel. If I wanted to kind of set it up more like how I like it, I'd probably put the mids up. Bass and middle can probably stay where they are. On the neck pickup, I might scoop the mids a little bit. I don't know. I do kind of like that older PAF style sound, but here's with a little bit of treble. Okay, and so the treble control is very subtle. When you go all the way to the right, which is, fully up, you get kind of more air and a little bit more openness. And then when you turn it all the way back, it doesn't really darken up a whole lot. It just kind of gives you more of a roll off. I mean, it's there, but I've heard other amps that when you turn the treble down, completely get rid of all clarity, and this doesn't really do that. Now, I would never run it quite like this. I would probably keep the treble just a little bit above noon. Let's try the mid control real quick. Okay, so that's interesting too, because unlike the treble, the mid rollback is a very dramatic scoop, whereas the mid, up above noon, it's just a subtle push in the mid. So in terms of the balance between what it's doing, the cut is much more dramatic than the push. Now, I think that had something to do with the mid boost, and we'll get to that in a minute. Bass, pretty standard. I'm going to go to the bridge pickup. Pretty standard, nothing too crazy there. Again, it is kind of set up a little bit like the mids, where that roll off is more dramatic than the push. So let me go ahead and engage the mid boost on the clean real quick, because it does do something. So here's with the mid boost on. So yeah, the mid boost works on the clean channel. It just gives you a little bit more, I guess, body in that kind of real mid range. It's not like an upper mid spike. It's not like what like a boost pedal would do, where it would push that upper mids. It really is kind of right in the middle, maybe like in that 800, 700 hertz range of just presence. Or not really presence, but you get what I'm saying. It just pushes the sound a little bit more forward, maybe a little bit more cut in the mix. So let's get on to the stuff that people really care about, which is the high gain stuff. Okay, so I'm on the lead channel. I don't have any of the boosts engaged. Everything is just in the middle, no mid boost engaged. Again, I have the presence up just a little bit. Treble's in the middle, bass, middle, all in the middle. My lead gain is also in the middle. Now, when I go to do some work with some of my boost pedals, I'm going to change a little bit of that. So let's just hear what it sounds like fully in the middle. Now I think that sounds pretty good, but I also think it sounds just a little bit undynamic, a little uninteresting because it's just a little bit flatter than what I'm used to. I do think this amp really opens up when you push the treble knob up more than you would think you'd have to. So I'm going to pull the treble up to about, I guess that would be like 3 o'clock. So that's pretty up there. Okay, so I really like it there, just a little bit behind 3 o'clock, kind of between 2 and 3 o'clock. And I kind of like everything else. Just for a real standard kind of older high gain tone. It still sounds pretty modern though. Like the overall like feel and just attack and everything about what I'm hearing doesn't sound like a spongy older kind of tube amp. It still sounds very tight. So I'm going to scoop the mids and see if I can't get more of like a thrash tone. So with the mid scoop, I like it. I like that older kind of scoop tone. I pushed the gain up a little bit just to make up for the, because it's such a tight amp that like the bottom end is so kind of pulled together that some of that saggy kind of chuggy woofiness that you get out of most amps isn't really there unless you have a little bit of gain behind it. So I pushed the gain up just a little bit. I think that sounds pretty cool. Let's try it with the mid boost. I'm going to pull the mids back up. Treble back where I like it. I'm going to pull the lead gain back a little bit more and turn on the mid boost to see what we get. The mid boost kind of makes the high gain stuff a little bit more boxy sounding with the middle up in the middle. If I pulled mids back with the mid boost on, to be honest, the mid boost, I could see where it could be very useful in a situation where you need to push a little bit more volume and a little bit more texture for like a lead tone. For rhythm stuff, I don't really like it that much. It's just a little bit too forward sounding. I'm sure on like lower tuning guitars, which I'll probably bust out my 7-string here in a little bit too, just to kind of see what that does. But on a lower tuning guitar where you need a little bit more kind of meet in the middle. I think that could also be useful, granted that you EQ'd this to kind of fit that. I haven't really found a good sweet spot with the mid boost on and the mid control on this, so just take that for what you will. All right, so I'm going to set my amp up here, kind of how I like it, with the treble between 2 and 3 o'clock. Mids, I'm going to actually pull the mids back just a tad. I'm going to pull the lead gain back actually past noon a little bit. Mid boost is off. Presence is still where it's at. I'm going to turn on the tube screamer. So yeah, that's kind of where I live on this amp. I think that's a fantastic sound. Actually put the mids back in the middle. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. A little bit more mid forward. I'm gonna tune to drop D. Okay, now I'm in drop D. More in that like Neanderthal, like chuggy zone of like one finger power chords. Actually pulled the gain back even a little bit more on this. Man, the mids and the top end on this amp just have this, like, I don't want to go on and call it a buzzsaw effect, because it's not that. It's more of like the way it cuts and kind of like the harmonics that come through just seem to kind of coalesce. I'm going to use a bunch of dumb words. They coalesce into a menagerie of a cacophony of sound. It's something to it. There's something to the sonic profile, again, another dumb phrase, of what's going on here that, I don't know, when you chug and you kind of like let it ring out. It's almost magical sounding. I'm gonna tear up. No, it literally has a sound that none of my other amps do. And let me move on to the lick lamb, because I really like this pedal too. It's hard to not play. Like when I'm doing these demos, like typically I have it set in my head, like how much I need to play before I can start talking again. But with this amp, I just want to keep playing. I don't want to talk. And you guys are probably like, well, then don't freaking talk, just play. But no, I want to move on to the V30 loaded cab with that condenser mic, just to kind of get a little bit of different flavor for what's going on here. Okay, so I've moved over to my Vintage 30 loaded Mesa 412 cab, and I have it mic'd up with the Lewitt 441 flex mic, and I actually have it set to the wide cartoid pattern because I'm trying to capture a little bit more sound that's coming out of the speaker. I don't want it to be super laser focused. So let's see what that sounds like with the settings that I had just dialed in. Let me turn off the tube screamer real quick just to kind of get a bass line. Very classic V30 sound, kind of a little bit flat in the mids with a little bit of that mid spike and a little fizz, but not too much fizz. I mean, these speakers are really well broken in. They're a little bit darker than your typical V30. The low end, when you're running this 25 watt cab into a 412 speaker versus a 212 speaker, is pretty noticeably different. It's a lot less resonant, and it's a little bit even more tight than it was with the 212. Granted, the Redback speaker has a fairly woofy low end, so still sounds good. I'm going to mess with the settings just a little bit. Pull the mid back a tad. Treble's fine, I think. Presence might even be a little bit up there. I mean, the presence control on this. I'm going to keep the presence about there. Treble about, I'm going to scale it back to like 1 o'clock. Mid down. Lead gain, I'm going to turn that up just a tad. And I'm going to move on to the SD1, the Boss SD1. Another good boost pedal. The SD1, where it differs from the Tube Screamer, a lot more low end gets cut out on the SD1. I'm starting to like the TS9 a little bit better than the SD1 in most cases, but I don't know, that changes from day to day. Let me move on to the Licked Lamb. So through the V30 loaded cab, bit of a different beast going on here. Actually harder to really dial in. I really do like the combination of the DV77 and the Redback. I actually like this sound better just through a 212 in general. But this isn't bad. The fact that it can drive a 412, and I'm not even close to maxing out any of the volumes here. My lead volume is just below half, and I'm using the master to attenuate. I'm sure if I turn the master down maybe and push the lead volume up, a bit more compressed. I'm definitely hearing the top end kind of roll back a little bit. Yeah, maybe for a 412, really push that lead volume on the channel and, get that master back to kind of where it's, at a good level. Yeah, because at some point on this lead volume, kind of about the halfway mark, you stop getting volume and you just get more kind of harmonics and saturation of the channel. And in this, this last few things here, you hear a lot of low end and kind of compression happen. So that's kind of cool that you can kind of do that with this amp. Yeah, with the lead volume up, this amp is behaving a bit more like it was going through the 212, if that makes sense. And I don't know if that's just kind of the impedance difference, because the 212 is a 16 ohm cab, the 412 is an 8 ohm cab, and these are just, I don't know. I really like it with that lead volume all the way up. I'm gonna go grab my 7-string real quick just to hear it, and then I'll leave you guys. All right, so I'm back with my Eminence 7-string. I got a DiMarzio Titan in the bridge. It's tuned basically to drop B with a low F sharp on the 7th string. Here's the amp with no boosts, kind of in the same realm of what I had set up before. Okay, yeah, I got a lot more low end coming through with that. I'm going to probably treble back around 2 o'clock. Presence, I'll keep the presence where it's at. Let me see what the mid boost does with this. Yeah, it seems like the 7-string is a bit much for just the circuit. With the mid boost on, you do get a little bit more push, but I don't know if it really works. I don't know. I'm gonna turn on a overdrive and kind of boost it and see what we get else. Let's turn on the let's go with the TS9 again, and this time I'm gonna keep the tone up. So. in the room, that just sounds freaking massive. That's just absurd. Lick alarm again. Yeah, that pedal's better for the low tuning. So hard to play alternate on the low F sharp. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna actually let me go to the saw, or the Fortin blade has a cool function with this cut. Yeah. Yeah, the Fortin blade, if you want something to tighten up the really low string on your guitar, the Fortin blade, that cut function will definitely truncate the low woofiness and give you a little bit more clarity. Anyway, that's my whole spiel on this fantastically well done amp. I really like it. I've never really had an amp with KT77s. I don't really know how they compare to EL34s in any real practical sense. I kind of get a sense of how they compare to a 6L6. They are a little bit different in that regard. I think the 6L6 amp will probably have a little bit more low end than this one, just overall. But this has plenty. Anyway, I just thought I would go through some of the stuff on this amp, and hopefully you guys got something out of it. Check out some of those other videos I tagged up above, and go ahead and leave me a comment, like, subscribe, all that, YouTube jargon. Just do it. Either way, I'll see you guys later.